Hello everybody, Mark Gray here. Welcome back to Introduction to Modeling in Maya. Today is going to be a pretty quick one. We're just going to be talking about saving and loading, importing, starting new scenes, that type of stuff. First thing is when you hit the File button, you see all these different options. So of course there's New Scene, which you can just simply hit and it will prompt you if you want to save your current scene, which we can hit Don't Save and it starts a fresh scene. You can also hit the options box and set different options. So you can create a default scene, which you can then save and just load that default scene whenever you need, so that you don't have to do these settings every time. You can also change your working units. So say, for example, you're doing animation. You typically want to work in 30 FPS or possibly 2997. You can change, all these different things. Typically, you'd be doing this stuff if you are doing any type of animation or cinematics. Otherwise, you'll typically just hit the just new scene. And of course, open scene, same thing. You can choose particular file types so that it only looks at those. If you leave it on best guess, it'll of course just look at all available working file types with Maya. And then save scene is, again, pretty obvious. It'll save. If there is no previous save, it'll do a save as function. You can turn on incremental saves. You can save a thumbnail or play blast, which I don't think is something that too many people would do. And increment and save is, as we saw in here, you can have it actually save with a increment number on it. So it's like 001. The next save will do 002, and you can limit how many increments that you want. And then of course, save preferences will save any changes that you've made to Maya. Then we have import. Import allows you to choose whether or not you want to group what you're importing. Again, you can choose the file type and different options that you typically won't need unless you're a little more advanced. Again, most of these you're just going to simply hit it and go. The export is where you may pick and choose. So if I bring in, say, this barrel, I can select it and choose either export all or selection because it's the only thing in the scene. But if I bring in something else, for example, so I bring in this axe model, then if I say only chose or only had selected the handle and I choose export selection, it will just do that one. Whereas if you hit export all, it'll get all of them. So when you hit the option box on export selection, it gives you these different options. So you can choose the file type that you want to export as. Now, some of these file types, depending on your version of Maya, you may need to turn on in plugins. And then there's of course a lot of other options where you can either send it to a Unity project, send it to an Unreal project, and then project window and set project is something that we'll get into later. And then one of the other big things I wanted to show is one of the features that I really love is if we go into our settings and preferences and we go to files and projects, you can set all your defaults if you want. Like you can set a default projects folder here. You can turn on autosave, which I definitely recommend always having autosave enabled, and you can choose I think the default is 10, and then you can change where it's autosaved to. One of the big things is the file dialog. I actually use OS native, so this way when I hit save scene, it pulls up the OS native function. So I've got all of my typical OS options for saving that you would have in most other programs, rather than that default Maya screen. So this is typically a lot simpler for most people. And then the last thing is that you can choose when you're saving scenes as a mile file type, you can save it as either binary or ASCII. ASCII is a plain text file type. Because it is plain text, you can actually load the file into like Notepad or different word processors, and make edits to it. So say if you have something go corrupt and you know how to fix the text to get rid of that corruption, you can go in and edit that. And then of course you have mine a binary, which I believe is the default. So you also have options, as we saw, that you can export. Let's do the export selection again. And I can change different types. So for the most part, FBX is going to be your main method of exporting. Most programs will deal in FBX. There are the odd program that will only work with OBJs, so just be aware of that. And then if you choose FBX, let's just do a fake one here. It'll pull up the FBX exporter, and you can choose your different options. Now, I suggest always having smoothing groups turned on, especially if it's going into Engine. I like to keep smooth mesh on, and if you understand these other options, you can definitely make changes to them. And then under advanced options and the FBX file type, you can change whether it's binary or ASCII, and as well the FBX version. Some older software, for example, may only work with 14, 15, may only work as high as 18, and that's something that you would need to know with the software that you're using. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the simple little video on saving, importing, exporting. I hope this was helpful to a few people. I know it's a quick basic one, but it's stuff that needs to be covered. In the next video, we will be covering customizing your Maya interface. So keep an eye out for that one over the next probably 3 or 4 days. Keep working hard, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support.